In Christmases past, when I served as a parish priest, I would send out small, very colorful printed cards to each household in the parish, in the congregation where I served. And there was a printed message in elegant Victorian script, and the message was very simple. It simply said, "May you behold the glory and peace of God in the Holy Child of Bethlehem as you receive your Christmas communion." It was a subtle way to encourage people to come to church, to come in person to church and take Christmas communion, to come and fill our church on Christmas Eve. Those were the days. Christmas communion means something very different this year. We find ourselves in a very strange spiritual place, a scattered place, and eager for a new light to pierce the gloom and the pain and the sadnesses of the past year. I, for one, so eagerly seek a new mood to descend on the world, a new perspective that will once again give us all those things that our hymns and our prayers and our carols and scripture readings repeat. Words: hope, peace, glory, goodwill, light, gladness, joy. So what to say to the church this Christmas and this Epiphany tide about the ancient mystery of God with us, the God who is coming to be with us, within us, in the Christ child? When I'm stumped about what to say, when I'm expected to say something, I often go to my shelves of old prayer books. And this year I found this prayer from times past. O God, you have declared thy love unto humankind by the birth of the Holy Child of Bethlehem. Help us to welcome him with gladness and to make room for him in our common days, so that we may live at peace with one another and in goodwill with all thy family, through the same thy Son, Jesus Christ. What moves me and sort of strikes me about this new prayer to me, which is an old prayer, is nothing new at all. In fact, it is the most basic, time-worn truth upon which all of our faith as Christians is settled. God seeks entrance into our common days. We are to feel gladness in the welcoming of God's eternal presence in our lives, in our world. And having welcomed the Holy Child, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to one another will change. We can live at peace and share goodwill with all. That's an old truth worth telling anew. This prayer is grounded in how the earliest church came to understand how God comes to us in Jesus. God steeps God's self in humanity in one human being found on the very fringe of society. And from that tiniest child, God's very presence radiates and pours out and overflows to the whole world. As a result, humanity and divinity become inseparable. One theologian from the 8th century, Andrew of Crete, likened the God-made human event of Christmas to when one places cold, hard iron in a fire. Soon the iron becomes red hot, so much so that one can't pull apart the fire from the iron. Energy and matter become one. That's how God's love enters human flesh and enters our sinews, our minds, everything that we are, every cell of our body, all of our hopes and dreams. When we draw near to Jesus, we get that God force. if not all of that God force of the whole universe. And that's how what is often hard and cold in our hearts toward God, toward our neighbor, becomes warmed again and becomes light. Let me try one more metaphor. Do you remember spring? Do you remember how the days get longer at both ends, both early in the morning and late in the day? Remember how your windows are open in your bedroom and your blinds are up just a bit. Remember how that earliest light of the day begins to flood your room and even passes through your closed eyelids. Remember how it may be still mostly dark outside, but at that first light, a wren or a robin or a blackbird can wake up the whole neighborhood even before your alarm clock goes off. That dawn is coming, my friends. That dawn starts stretching out to us at Christmas, the day when, after the lingering effects of the solstice, the days begin to get longer and brighter and cheerier. There's nothing new about these things. Every year it comes as something new, a canticum novum, a new song. And the prayer I cite contains even more welcome news for us this year as we turn the page from 2020 to the possibilities and the hope of 2021. This new light, this new song, this new infusion of God's embodied love for us in Jesus does not leave us unchanged. We are not the same as a result of Christmas, and perhaps especially this Christmas. As the room is filled with new light, new fresh air, and the song of a blackbird, so our hearts are changed. We are newly moved and inspired to live at peace with one another, in goodwill with the whole human family, with new love for the earth Jesus created, breathed in, drank from, and walked upon. That God took on our flesh means that we can get to start again and see all our neighbors as agents of God's peace, opportunities for God's redemption and reconciliation. God's justice sprouts from that vision, since justice is love made visible. May this vision of God's new song, this sound of God's new song, sung in our every encounter, be our real Christmas communion this year. And may God's infinite compassion break upon us in a dawn like no other we've known before. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.